Okay, so we're going live. I will go post this now. All right, I've posted to everybody that the session is now live.
Okay.
And I just got a notification. Okay. So we'll probably have a few people trickle in. And if you have joined us live and you're watching and you'd like to say hi, I'm going to pull up a question and answer screen so I can see your questions. And it's nice to know just who's joined us. So if you can just say, hi, this is so-and-so from so-and-so, and we can acknowledge people are here. I'm joined online right now by Lisi. And Lisi, where are you at? What region are you from?
I'm in Colorado in the high desert of the Four Corners region.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm coming from Maine, so we almost got the whole country covered as far as width.
Yeah.
About 3/4 of the country here.
If David does, he's from Boston, I think.
Yep. David's down in Massachusetts, and he's just getting back from a nice little hiatus up to Maine to visit. So that was
really?
Nice to catch up with him in person. Well, why don't we start off with tonight's topic, because there is a lot of content. In fact, we may actually do a double session this week and next week if we find the need. Our topic is Diigo, and if you haven't heard of Diigo yet, it's an online bookmarking tool, a social bookmarking tool. So it's a little different from what people think of as a bookmarking tool. And it also allows for an incredible amount of note-taking and collaboration of notes. And we're going to explore all those different features as best we can. And anybody who's viewing, I'm going to set up our web page that will have the links that we use. If you've never been to the web page for Hanging Out with Education, it is at 5squared.us. That's the number 5. And you just spell out SQUARED.us. There will be a tab, the second tab that you'll see says Hanging with Education, and you'll see all our sessions with all the links to all the resources. During live sessions, if you're not in the voice chat, as Lisi and I are, the website's going to be the go-to place to have up to catch any links. So if there's any links I drop, I'll go ahead and edit the web page. You may have to refresh the web page to see it, and I'll let you know that. But that'll be the quickest, easiest way for people to get to the links of what we're playing with. If you don't have a Diigo account, you can simply type in Diigo into any browser. And I'll demonstrate this really quickly on the screen for you. So I'm just going to open a new tab, and I'll type in Diigo into a search. It'll be the first item you see. It'll be www.diigo.com if you wish to type in the whole address. I'm lazy and I use search engines all the time. If you have not signed up yet, there'll be an opportunity here for you to sign up. I think I just signed up with my Google account, so I didn't have to make another account. And after you're done signing up, it's very important to realize they're going to give you an opportunity to grab something called a Diigo applet. That Diigo applet is simply an icon that'll be down in the middle of your screen. You just drag it right up to your toolbar, and it becomes a shortcut. With this shortcut, Diigo becomes so much easier for people to use, and you'll see the functionality of that a little later on. There are YouTube videos as well as to how to set up your Diigo, but they've set the setup pretty automatic by now. What you're looking at now is my library, and you'll see across the top, these are the choices of what you can do here. And in my library, you'll notice I have a number of tags. Normally, when you do bookmarks online, I'll show you, I have bookmarks up here. These bookmarks, let's say my STEM bookmarks, these are relative to my browser. And when I add stuff, I can put them in folders and put all kinds of links in here. Same thing with CCRS. I can put different links in that folder I make. So I can organize my bookmark bar. The downside is I can't really share these bookmarks easily with people because they're hooked onto this browser and to my account. With Diigo, they don't really do things by folders so much. It's by names or tags. As an example, I'll just type in a tag I've used, let's say math. I do a lot with math, and you'll see I've used a bunch of different ones that are all very similar. This is one of the biggest challenges with Diigo is for people to consistently use the same names or same tags when they tag something. Sometimes I felt like typing up mathematics. Sometimes I just put math. Sometimes I put maths with an S. So I wasn't very consistent in my tags. When I type that in, any of the links I've done that have the word math in the title or the description or in the bookmarks, I will have. So for instance, this one has educational games, game-based learning. That's a tag at the end. But it does have the word math in the description. If I scroll down a little bit further, you'll see Math is Power for You is a site I bookmarked. And that one has math, tutorials, resources, mathematics, and videos. These are all tags I can use to search. So if I do a search for videos, this Math is Power for You will also show up under a video search. It will also show up under my resource search. So creating your own system of tags takes a little getting used to. It's not intuitive for people who are used to putting things in folders. And you may look at your list of your library. Let me go back to my library here. I'm going to go back up on the breadcrumb and see my library. And when I start sorting through this, there's a lot of pages here. It says 856 items. And it's really not organized at all. It's just a list of things chronologically sorted. And you can see I have 43 some odd pages of tags of things I've bookmarked. This, for many people, is unmanageable. They're like, well, I know I tagged it somewhere. It's in here somewhere. I just don't remember what tag I used. Having a list of tags that you've used over here is nice. I can view a tag cloud. And a tag cloud will show, again, like all clouds, if you're not familiar with them, these word clouds will show you which ones show up more often. So I've used the word math and education more often than, for instance, distance learning or DIY or chemistry. These I've only used a few times, whereas the bolder words are ones I've used most often. Some people who are visual like to look at their cloud instead. Or I can click on the actual word tags, and I can see sort alphabetically. I can see all the different tags I've used in my library or my collection. So some people find this easier. Like I have 10 tags on animation. So I'm just going to click on that and see, what did I tag for animation? Oh, interesting. Stop motion animation, the history of animation and video, or history that's animated. That's cool. So I can start looking through these things and say, oh, yeah, that's what I had for a resource. I have teachers all the time who say, hey, Ed, do you have a resource for, and I say, well, do you have Diigo? And they're like, yeah, but I don't really use it. Let me show you something that's really powerful, and if this doesn't encourage you to get a Diigo account tonight, I'm not sure what will. If you come over on the top, it says Discover. You can go to Community or My Network. I'm going to go to My Network, and I'm going to take a look at who's in my network. I just added Holly tonight because Holly shared her Diigo name, and you can see these are things that Holly has posted. She has a bunch of things that show up, and I can look over here on the right-hand side that I have 9 following me. This is kind of like Twitter. And I have 7 followers. There are 7 people following me. I am following 9 others. So when I look at the other people on following, let me take my good friend Martha, for instance. When I look at Martha's Diigo list, I now can see all of the tags she has, or her top tags, and I can see all the things that she has been bookmarking. So that's her profile. But if I go to her library, I can now see all of the tags she's been using. I can see the things she felt was important. And I even have access to all the different people in her network. So this becomes a social sharing of information, a way to view the internet through things other people have disseminated for you. Now, maybe you don't have any friends and you just want to look at the community. What has the community offered? So now I can search the community for something like math. And this is going to show me everybody out there in Diigo land. What have they done by popular or recent? Popular is a nice way to go, in my opinion. And I get to see how many people have tagged that resource. So over here, when I see 178 versus these 20s and 30s, that 168, that 78 rather, that looks pretty cool. I might want to take a look at that. Now, of course, it looks like it's a Khan Academy video on Pixar in a box, which is kind of cool. If you're not familiar with that, you might want to check it out. It really is a cool thing. But some of these, we got 20 people or 20, 17 here. Maybe that's not something I want to check out. But every time you bookmark something, Diigo adds that somebody has bookmarked that particular resource. So if someone wants to go to the community under Discover, they can actually search all of the Diigo lists out there. And again, we're getting a nice way to filter the internet to find out what people thought was valuable.
Dan?
Yes.
Could you back up a bit and maybe provide a scenario of what bookmarking is and how it's used to help people organize information? Great.
I was just going to get to that. I did want to stop and check the questions to see if anybody's typed any questions in. And it doesn't look like anybody has yet. So if you have questions on just the general idea of having a library, tags, being able to look at other people's tags, if you have any questions about those things, please go ahead and drop those down. We'll address those.
I sent you a question, and it looks like it was posted.
Okay. Oh, Lisa, when you are live in the video chat, that's a different chat, and I now see the red mark. I have to keep an eye out for the red mark, so I'm sorry I missed that. Okay, so let's talk about why would we do this. Lisa, can you come up with a hot topic today? What might we have students looking up today?
Goodness.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but I can blame you for the topic.
Yeah, students, I would say, let's just say, oh gosh.
How about the elections? We're trying to teach logic. We're trying to teach critical thinking, seeing both sides of an argument. Maybe we could pick a policy.
Negotiation.
Okay. See if I spelled that correctly.
Of course I did.
Negotiation. Okay. Maybe I want something in the news on negotiation. All right. Donald Trump says membership ultimatum to golfer was negotiation. So let's say I just grab any particular article that I might want to have students look at. So I'm just going to grab this Chicago Tribune posting. One thing people might notice is that when I go to some of these sites like a public entity, you may not see all the advertisements on my screen that others do when you go there. If that is the case, that is because I have some plugins on my browser, and perhaps we should spend a Wednesday afternoon discussing plugins that are useful to have. But I have a plugin that strips a lot of those advertisements off so my students don't get distracted when I'm projecting things on the screen. So I may browse this ahead of time and say, you know what, this looks like a good article for discussion. And I really haven't looked at this one at all, so I'm just winging that this would be important. I come up to my Diigo applet, and I click on that, and it says I have the option to annotate this or to save it. I'm going to start by just taking and clicking on save. There's many, many options here. Again, I don't think we can cover everything in an hour because it's phenomenal how many options this tool has. But for simplicity, I'll just click save, and it will ask me, what do I want to save this as? Now, there's a title from the article up here. Maybe I want to rename that. This one seems pretty descriptive. I could indicate that I only want myself to see this. I don't want my friends of friends of friends seeing this. I may also check, I haven't read this yet, but this is something I'd like to read later. So a student who's doing their initial research on something may just go in grab mode, where they're grabbing that looks good, grab that looks good, and they can flag that for read later. So they can actually go through their Diigo account and find all the stuff that's on their reading list and then start doing their research when they're offline, for instance. So I'll add a description in here. I'm just going to say this is a demo document.
Those options aren't showing on my screen. I don't know about others.
They're not.
No.
And are you signed into Diigo with your account?
Maybe not on this browser. Okay, but go ahead.
That was the first thing that came to mind as a possibility. Is if you're not signed into Diigo, I think that the applet automatically signs you in though. But that would be frustrating if you don't see all those options.
Oh no, but I'm not seeing your options right now.
Oh. I have it on shared screen, but the pop-up window is not showing up.
Okay.
Let me try this then. Let me do entire screen and see if the pop-up window will show up. Again, I'll hit Diigo, save.
Yes. Yeah.
That shows up now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me cover up my video in the background so we don't get that recursive dizzying feeling. I'll do this again. I'll go to my Diigo applet, hit save. And there's where the private was. This is where the read-only was. And I can hit a description in here to say demo. Now this is where the important thought has to come in as to what do you want to tag this with. I'm going to tag this with training because this is technically just a trainee event. I might put the word negotiation. I mean, ultimatum might be cool. And of course, Trump. You know, that's a nice tag to put in there to find stuff if I'm doing a report on the politics and this season. We're going to talk about groups in a little bit. I'm going to share this to the Diigo group I set up for tonight, which is Hanging with Ed Diigo. And I'll show people how they can join that group later on. And I'll hit save. When I do this, everything has been done for me. It sounds like I went through a lot, but really all I did was I clicked hit this, hit save. I typed in a little description so I can remember what this link was for, and I chose my tags. Then I chose my group, and I hit save. You don't have to choose a group. You can just have it go to your normal collection. Now, once that's done, you'll see that I have a menu up here. This menu of options allows me to choose different color highlighter, many different things I can add. Let's say I want to use pink just to draw some attention to a certain paragraph. So let's say, let's go with this one right here. I can highlight that and click on this pink highlighter. It'll automatically highlight that pink. This effectively turns anything you find on the internet into a markupable or something you can highlight for your notes. Maybe this whoops, highlighted the wrong part here. Oh, here's a nice trick if you haven't learned this yet. If you triple click on any one word, so click, 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 that highlights a whole paragraph. So if you have a hard time clicking and dragging to cover all the text in a paragraph, just remember you can triple click. I'll try it with this one up here. Click, click, click. It gets the whole paragraph. As a side note, if you just do 2 clicks, it'll get the word. 3 clicks will get the whole paragraph. So maybe this paragraph, I would like to have a different color, so maybe I want that one yellow. So I can now color code my notes. And the nice thing is, if I share this Diigo link with a friend or with a teacher, they'll also see my notes. So why don't we do that? I'm going to grab my Diigo link to this just so people who are following along can take a look in real time as we do this. I'm going to come up here and, excuse me, I'm going to come up and open this up. I'm going to grab that address. Actually, I'm going to go to, let's see if we can get everybody in the group first. That might be useful. In Diigo, I have this group, and I can invite users. You can see I have a bunch of different groups already established. Hanging with Diigo, I see I have an update. When I click on that, I can see the article as it's been entered, and I can invite people. If I'm going to invite people, I would like to have a link, and I don't have one. Lisa, can you share your Diigo name?
I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Do you mind if I use your email?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And let's see. I think this links to my Google account. It doesn't.
LeeCywise@gmail.com.
Leecy?
Uh-huh.
Wize?
It's S-E, not Z.
Okay. At gmail.com. Okay. So that's an invitation that will go out, and Lacey should be able to go into her Diigo. And when she goes into her Diigo, she'll see her library, outliners, and groups. Under groups, she should now see Hanging with Ed at Diigo. So anybody who's viewing, if you want to join this afterwards to check things out, you can just toss me an email, and I can add you to Diigo that way. There is an option to add by the Diigo nickname, but I tried that earlier with somebody who filled out the form online, and I was getting an error that something timed out or something like that. So that was kind of frustrating. I'm not sure why that happened. So I'm back here. Anybody who goes to that group and looks at that link will now see this purple stuff, and they'll now see the yellow stuff I've highlighted down here. But just highlighting, that's okay for one individual just to see what's going on here. But what if they want to add some thoughts to this? And you notice I'm hovering over the text, and I get this other palette that shows up. I can add a sticky note. I can share just the stuff I've highlighted with somebody else. Or I can change the color, of course. So let's just add a sticky note. This right now is set to private. I could set it to share with other people. So maybe I just want Lacey and I in on this conversation, and I can add just Lacey to this. Right now, I'll keep it private, and I'll say, this is a good paragraph to show a point of view. Or why did I highlight this? Just I can put some notes down there. As a teacher, maybe I have set up here some prompts or some questions I want students to respond to. And I've added my students to this chat. So again, they've gone to the Diigo group. They've clicked on the link to bring them here. They see that there's a chat box right at the end. You can see the chat box icon. And when they come in here, there's a question. They can come in and start answering. Now, right now, I'm the only person in here, so it's going to show me, and it's only private. But you would see who responded and what their response was. You can have a whole class discussion all within this document that sits on the internet. There's a lot of possibilities with that. Let me see if I can add Lacey to this. I have to change it from private. That doesn't work. Okay. Well, first I have to save it. And I can choose what group. So let's say Hanging with Diigo. And I can say, let me know what you think about the opportunity, the the private chat notes. And I can post that to our group, and it says Ed Latham comment. Now, anybody at any time who goes into our Diigo group, they've been added, they will see all the stuff we've done in here, and they also will see that post that they can respond to if they jump into this document. Any questions on that aspect, Lacey? Let me check.
I'm trying to join you.
Okay.
I'm in my groups, but it says you haven't joined or created any group yet. So I guess I'll have to play with that a little more.
Okay. Let me stop my screen sharing here for a moment. Oh, Jeff Jackson is sharing ad blocker rules. Oh, yeah, you're right, Jeff. For those of you who haven't heard about it, ad blocker was the plugin specifically that I was using, and Jeff recognized the little stop sign signal that was on my browser. So good call on that, Jeff. I'll go back to screen share on that. I want entire screen. Okay, let me minimize that again. Okay, so we have a group set up. We do have to invite members to it. The members could then see different things that we have linked and participate in conversations. That's kind of nice, and it does allow for collaboration. There's another example I want to share with everybody in my groups. Recently, this last spring, the Links Network decided they were going to run a micro group, and I was lucky enough to be able to work with a great group of people in setting that up. The micro group was to go out and find adult education resources that might be useful. We decided to use Diigo as a means of getting everybody in a group to go capture stuff. And let me show you how this worked. We had the Diigo group set up, and you can see over here the active members that were in there. You can see view all to see everybody who was in there. But we had people just start posting stuff. And you'll see that there were, how many different things? 10 different tags that were used. And I can click on all of those to see what was used. Now, if you're ever going to do this with other teachers or with students, let me offer a very important caution here. What you use for tags makes a big difference. For instance, somebody used the word or as a tag. This indicates to me that they weren't aware of how the tags were written. If you have more than one word in a tag, you have to put it in quotes. I'm suspecting whoever used this tag, they did it 6 times. So you can see over near my cursor, there's 6 times the word or was used as a tag. Well, that's a useless tag. I mean, nobody's going to search for the word or when they're looking for resources. So teaching people how to tag appropriately is going to be important. I'll go back and demonstrate that spacing thing. Some people use underscore. Some people just use a space because they put everything in quotes. Somebody would have put a quote on the beginning and a quote on the end. Doesn't matter if you use a space, then that works fine, just like you normally would write. Same thing here where it says concept mapping or diagramming. That entire phrase was put in quotes. So if people are using the exact same quote, it makes this tagging system much more viable. So we had presentation or slideshow creation as one of our topics. When I click on that, I can immediately see all of the different resources people shared. So here's Prezi, Google Slides, Powtoon, and BlendSpace. Now maybe there's some others out there, and if there are, I'd welcome you to send me an email rather, or jump on the links technology community of practice, and there's some threads in there about the educational resource evaluation microgroup, and you can join that group. The group's work is officially at a closing point, but the work continues. People are still sharing resources in this group, and I'm still using these resources to go through a whole evaluation process where teachers can evaluate products that they've used that others may have found. So this is really great. We've got right now a couple dozen tools that multiple adult educators have said, this is useful in our program and here's how we might use it. And we did this as a way to grab and stash is what I called it. Everybody just grabs stuff on the internet. They go to Diigo. They click save. Well, I'll go to another article so we can just demonstrate that real quick again. So, all right, salary negotiation. We all want to get higher salaries, so let's bookmark this one because that's important stuff. So let's say this was a resource I wanted to share to a group. I click on Diigo. And with that, I come down to tagging things. I might say negotiation, salary, because that's important. And I can choose which group to put in there. So I'm going to do it with Hanging with Ed Diigo. I want to illustrate here how I could put multiple words. This is just a, long tag. So that reminds me I can delete that later. That whole phrase is considered a single word by Diigo. So there are 3 tags here. One is negotiations, negotiation without an S, sorry. One is salary. And one is this long phrase. That's all considered one tag. So these spaces, if I didn't put the quotes on there, there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tags all just in that one phrase. I click save. And now if I jump back to my group, and I'm going to go with Hanging with Ed, and I can see that an expert weighs in on the fine art of salary negotiations. I can see that tag is right here, and these other tags are right here. Also, notice that down here on that Donald Trump article, I put down a quote. I put down some comments. People can actually see the comments without even having to jump in first to see if something's been updated. I know I was the last person to edit this. If a student has responded to my prompt, I would be able to see it here without having to jump into the document. That makes it really handy because teachers have a hard time. Did the student update that? Any shared thing on the internet, it's really hard to know, did someone update that yet? Because it's not like people are passing different copies of the file back and forth. So this is a nice way to check on the discussion and see how many people have contributed to that discussion. I'm going to check back and see if there's any questions real quick at this point. So I apologize for the dizziness here. Jeff offered, I was just reading on some pages about Diigo being hacked and other scary stuff. Here's a link. Awesome. I have not seen those references, Jeff, and I will be sure to add that link that you shared to the resources for people to review. Matter of fact, I will go to the website now and add that. But that's good to know. Almost any resource that's out there can be subjected to hackers pretty easily. And I'm curious, Jeff, what was the date on those? How long ago was that? Because sometimes attacks happen and then, it's been fixed for 5 years, but it's still on the internet. So I'd be curious if you know the dates on those postings. Right now, I'm trying to get the website updated with that link so people who can go to the 5squared.us site, click on the Hanging with Education link. They'll be able to see the link you shared in a moment. And link to hacking concerns. And I'll link that. So if you are on that website and you refresh right now, there should be a link to that article that Jeff just shared with us. And it says, Diigo, no, don't. I'll share it on my screen here so people can see it. So here's the article Jeff had shared with us. And let's take a look at it. This was September 19th, 2011. So the date, I mean, this is something we want to work with students too. If there's an alarm or if there's something going on and they say, wow, see, Trump said this. Well, yeah, he might have said it back in 1980 or something when he was in a reality show or something like that. This case, this was an attack back in September 19th, 2011. But the fact that, it was susceptible at the time, I'd obviously want to see, hey, are there any more recent attack articles? So thank you for bringing that up. I think this is a great thing to point out, that you want to do some homework on any tool. Just because someone says it's a great whiz bang, you want to check things out. Poke at it and probe it yourself and check out all the options. So thank you again for sharing that, Jeff. Okay, I just want to make sure I get all the other questions that people have posted. Lisa, you shared with me a concern about Diigo and all of these tags. And I'm going to jump right back to my list here, because I think that's a really important topic. What was your concern with all the tags and doing Diigo?
It wasn't so much the tags. It's I wanted to organize my resources, not to share them with others, but to for my own. Like I on links, I would have diversity and literacy. I'd have reading and writing. I would have all kinds of different things that I would believe would help me share information with the groups. And when I first joined Diigo, I was using the library and I was creating folders. But, all of a sudden this year, I get, let me take a look at what I get on my...
Would you be able to share your screen?
I don't know.
In the top left-hand corner.
I can show you what I get when I go to Diigo, and what I get is a bookmark, and at the top it gives a URL, title, description, tags, and then if I just put it in there, it doesn't put it into any folder. It doesn't organize it. So I go to more options and I get add to a list. So instead of adding to a folder like I did before, now I have these lists that I have to create, some of which show up, some of which don't. And I don't know why they make a difference between lists and library folders, and I was kind of confused about all of that.
This tool has been around for a number of years, and as the discussions in the forums come up, people complain, well, why aren't there folders? And they called it lists eventually, and then they have the tags, and there's so much confusion and discussion about the different terminology being used and the different ways of storing things. Diigo said, listen, we're about tags. The internet works on tags. That's how web pages work. That's how Google, as a search engine, they start looking at tags on pages to help sort and find things quickly. And they use a whole bunch of other metrics. But at a base level, tags are what organizes the internet.
Okay.
And since they store everything in Diigo on the cloud, they wanted to use the same conformity, the HTML5 protocols, with tagging as the basis for how they're storing all their information. Now, they did listen to people and say, all right, we hear you. We want to give you some way to handle this on your own with these tags. So they created something called My Outliners. Now, this is really slick.
Yeah, I've used that.
Now, they already give you one outline. It's called Why and How to Use Outliners. And when you click on it, there's a little slideshow, and it kind of shows that you can move your outline around by just clicking and dragging, or some key codes here if you want. And they're just showing you the simple movements, but this isn't enough to really know what's going on. So they created an entire shortcut series on the left rather, and you'll also see there's how-to videos and help.
Okay.
And this is what the outliner looks like. So if I wanted to move this particular note around, maybe that was more important, that's all I have to do. Maybe I want to move that to outside here. I can move it out. So you can organize your notes and your links by just clicking and dragging them around.
Now that was true before. Now when I go to save, to bookmark something, it doesn't give me a list of outliners. It just says, I can't go to an outliner.
Okay, so let me go to another page. Let's go back to Donald Trump here.
Okay.
And I'm going to go up to my Diigo applet, and I'm going to hit edit to edit my bookmark. And this is add to an outliner. And up here, I can add it to an outliner. I don't have one made, so I'm just going to create an outliner. And I'm going to call this demo junk, just so I remember I can delete it later. And I hit create. It's going to create that outliner. I'll hit save. So now when I go back to my Diigo, and I'm going to back up a little bit here, there's my demo junk that I just made. And there's my link.
And I don't get that option for outliners. I only get, can I share my screen?
Yeah, and if you go to your Google Hangout, and on the left-hand side, you should mouse over, you'll see a green icon that says screen share. While you're looking for that, I just want to update everybody. Jeff shared that even with updates, exploits are always present, and that is so true. You know, we're working with students and sometimes even minors when we're talking about credit recovery programs and such. It's important to, you know, be checking on that. How secure are things currently, knowing they can change too, and how do we get students to protect themselves as young adults? Are you able to see where the screen share is, Lacey?
I think so.
Oh, I think so.
So I'll bring up, when I have, can you see this little icon here, Diigo?
Yes, we can.
So I say bookmark, and let's say I want to bookmark this site. It gives me the title, the description, the tags, more options.
Okay.
And I click on more options, and it doesn't have anything about my outlines that I created last year are all gone.
I'm so glad you shared this screen, Lacey. I'm going to change the focus so it's just on your screen here while I'm talking. Lacey, I noticed in the top left-hand corner that you're using Firefox. This is something I want to share with everybody because it's such an important thing when you're working with Google. When you work with Google Docs of any sort or any of the Google tools, it's imperative that your browser is up to date as much as possible. Now, Firefox and Safari and Internet Explorer, by default, do not automatically update. You have to manually go in and update that. See, right now it says it's downloading update.
Okay,
so
it was downloading automatically on it. I don't know why it wasn't doing. Okay.
It costs every time the system is redone. Every time they update Firefox, for instance, it may reset the settings. And Internet Explorer may be different, and Safari may be different. Okay. The only browser that I know of that automatically updates by default is the Chrome browser. That's kind of why I use that, because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to manually go up and redo that. So what's happened is your browser is a certain version. It's a certain age. And what Firefox does is say, I want to go to Diigo. And it goes to Diigo, and Diigo says, hey, there's a new version here, but I see you're an old fart. So let me give you the old fart version. So it downgrades Diigo to the level of where that browser was at. So the browser doesn't have any hiccups or brain farts or having things go kapooey on you.
Okay.
So what you were seeing is an older version of Diigo, which may not have had all the selections.
No, well, okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah. And David Rosen has joined us. He says, hi, everybody. Hi, David. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, David.
And Jeff was adding, you should do a session about Google Docs. Well, you wrote dorks. I'm assuming you said docs. It shows how Google uses tags and specific search
I think he probably
terms.
meant dorks.
Oh, dorks? Okay.
I know Jeff.
It shows how Google uses tags and specific search terms to do everything from stealing passwords to breaking into protected sites. And even software serials up for grab. It's hacking using just Google and it. You know, I think the whole security issue out there on the internet is a real concern. And I think out of all the companies out there that are putting money into security, Google does a pretty good job. I know I haven't got any spam. I haven't had any accounts hacked in Google since 2005, I think, is when I started using it full time. So, you know, now, of course, now that I'm putting this out there, every hacker in the world is going to come after me. But, you know, I don't have anything on there that's worth it. All right, so let's jump back into Diigo here. I'm going to share that screen again. Share this. And if anybody has any questions about Diigo at this time, just please go ahead and contribute those as well. I want to make sure we get people's questions in through this. For some people, I'm going to go back to my groups. I have a lot of people who comment, boy, Ed, you know, I can ask you for most any resource and you come up with it so quickly. Part of that is because I'm lazy and resourceful. And that's a great combination for teachers to have. We all work so hard. But I just want to point out that community thing and how powerful that is. Because I can come in here and find out on any topic, any need, you know, how do we do this? Like voice to text. Let's see if that shows up at all. So I have people asking me all the time, English is a second language, or students who can't type, what is there available for voice to text, let's say from Macintosh, or I have an iPad, how do I do that? I just, you know, I can search the internet, sure. But I also go into my Diigo list too to see what are people grabbing from the internet. So this is a way to really quickly get a list of resources that have already been filtered by the field at large. Maybe it's not a great filtering, and there's going to be some in here that's just has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. And maybe that's because my search isn't that great. You got a lot of ones. The ones, you know, probably ignore those. But something like 50, well, that's worth looking at. So I'll click on that. And here are the actual instructions on how to use Google Docs voice transcription software. It tells you how to add punctuation. I don't know if you've ever used voice to text, Lacey. Have you?
Yes.
Well, I don't know about you, but my punctuation is horrible. I got the period thing down, but I type in question mark or something like that, and it must be my pronunciation or something. How did Popeye say it? Pronunciation? Anyway, how I pronounce it, I end up getting them writing out the word all the time instead of the notation. But
actually, I've done the opposite. I write text, and then because my voice runs into problems, I have automated speech added to my text. So it's another, and that has its own challenges. But
sure. Yeah. So this whole access to the world's libraries is made possible through this tagging system. And it does make it easy to join different groups. David, you were part of that micro group. I don't know how early you jumped into the conversation, but I did share with everybody that we use Diigo as a means of grabbing resources. And you had quite a bit of experience in tagging things yourself. If you could just type up a quick thought about your experiences in tagging things as a group, things that teachers might want to know. I can share that verbally with everybody as well. I have questions about note-taking when people do research. I just recently finished a college transitions program over the summer, and we used Diigo as a tool. And what a student shared with me was that they needed a workflow. They needed a sequence of how to use Diigo well. And I thought that was really interesting. We talked about their topic. We came up with some resources they had found on the internet, and we talked about the tagging aspect, because that was the most difficult thing for the student. They weren't sure what tags to put down. So we took a look at their outline of what they intended to do in their research paper, and we used some of their headings as their tags. So when they were doing a specific paper, they had gone out and just grabbed some stuff. Some students were very comfortable just grabbing stuff, coming up with tags with it. Other students who needed to do more work by paper first before trying to get into the digital stuff, they actually had kind of an outline already of ideas that they wanted to flesh out based on some of their preliminary research. So they used the headings as tags, and I thought that was kind of interesting. It doesn't work for all students, but this particular student, it worked very well for her, and she was able to progress much quicker in the digital realm using her headings as tags, as opposed to just coming up with a tag on top of her head. That was just too big of an option for her. David was sharing it was fairly easy to do the if you wish to check out that link that Jeff has shared. The web page, if you hit refresh, should have that more recent link. Google Dorks Ultimate Collection for Hackers. Oh, so it was Dorks. Google Dorks. I have not heard of Google Dorks. Thank you for introducing this to me. I'm going to have to go ahead and read up on this. It's for advanced Google search. Awesome. It looks a little techy for some people, though. They start seeing underscores and abbreviations and PHP involved. They're like, oh, okay, I'll pass. But for those of you who aren't squeamish about a little bit of techieism, this does look like it has a ton of power available in it. Look at all those codes. Holy mackerel. Ooh, Camera Online codes. All right, Jeff, you've introduced us to the whole world of Google hacking. Now I'll have to go take a look at that and see, well, what are the advantages, disadvantages of perusing that information? Good to know it's out there, though. The outliner tool. For people who have used other outline tools other than Diigo, I'd be interested to hear what makes a good outliner tool. Elisa, you mentioned you might have used this before. Did you find limitations with this or things you wished it had included?
I found it pretty easy to use. I don't know what happened that I lost it. I have to go back because it was, and I've had several updates in Firefox since. But to me, the outliner was very much like a regular outline. You have a topic, and then you have subtopics under that. And I found it very easy to move things into different parts of that outline when I had it available. But I liked it.
I like this aspect here where I just I went to one of the links. I just add my notes underneath each link. So a student can very easily just throw a whole bunch of Diigo links in, and as they start searching through those links, they can discover, their own notes.
They can organize according to tags.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really cool feature. I noticed my screen share stopped. That was interesting.
Yeah, we lost you for a little bit.
Well, must have had an internet hiccup. I'm glad I'm still here.
We are too.
All right, let's check out any more questions here because I think we've just gone through a few things here. Fun stuff. David sharing, yeah, we lost you. Cool. I'm very happy with the internet service. I've moved from basically having tin cans connected by a small wire through a radio tower to an area that has really decent internet. I mean, we've had 4 or 5 computers running when my kids are here, and they're gamers. So it's really nice to have some stable internet. But I can very much commiserate with people who are still out and dealing with very low connection speeds, which makes it challenging too. I like this up here. Once a student has done making their outline, they can generate a shareable link. So this is really nice to be able to share their work with the teacher or someone else. And you'll notice it has all the tags on there, so they could share it by Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. So if you have a classroom page already made up in some of these areas, the student can share it right to the class. Again, my college transitions class, they learn lessons really early on how to be digitally effective. They made a document and shared it with each other once they all learned what Google Docs was about, and they communally took notes. Now, some people typed in more notes than others, but the idea was everyone in the class used those notes as they went through the class. And they thought that was so cool because some people weren't able to make it to every class, but they knew that document would have all the notes. I'm curious on the export to see what kind of export options they give me. Oh, they give it to me as a copy and paste. Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping they'd give me an option of different file types that I could be able to export this to. I wonder how that differs from me just highlighting everything here and copy and pasting that way. Oh, they do give me an export here. So it looks like their word export is just a fancy term for copy and paste. That's kind of misleading. All right, let me go back here. If there are no other questions, I think we have pretty much gone through the real basics of Diigo. I think it would be wonderful if we had people sign into Diigo. Maybe on links, I post the recordings to these sessions as well as the web page with the different links or follow-up. It would be neat in that links discussion, if people are part of that, if they can share their Diigo information so we can all connect together and maybe collaborate on resource gathering. Because all of us may have, a handful of resources, but if we can put them all together in one place, there's a lot of power in how many people are out there. Jeff was talking about using the community to call out what he needs. Well, if we've got adult educators who are using stuff already on a consistent basis, I'd rather call that stuff first because we know somebody else found value there. Maybe I don't use it, but at least I can see, oh yeah, someone else found value in that too. With that, unless anybody has any parting questions, I thank everybody for joining us, and hopefully this session on Diigo was helpful for people to at least be aware of the fact that it has powerful bookmarking, sharing, and note-taking capabilities. If people have any other topics, I want to remind you that you can go to 5squared.us. That's 5, the number 5, and then the word squared, all one word, .us, and click Hanging with Education. There is a suggestion for topics. Oops, as my page refreshes. That suggestion for topics, I look at that, and as I get things in, I try to add it to the schedule. There has been a suggestion for distance learning. I might need a little bit more clarification as to what that discussion may entail. So I'll follow up with the person who put that suggestion in. That's why I asked for contact. So if you're wondering why do I ask for an email, that's in case I need some more clarification on your topic. What angles did you want to hit? How do you want to interact with everybody on the internet? I really use these discussions a lot to fill in. If I don't get discussions, I want to float out there the teaser that the college and career readiness standards, there are a ton of them in both math and English. Perhaps we might take a Wednesday where we take one cluster of a math standard, for instance, and we unpack them together. 1 hour a week, we unpack a cluster in English or math, and we alternate. So we all have a better understanding of at least, a handful of these standards instead of looking at a large mountain of material. So that's just an idea. Again, I welcome all your ideas, and I thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you, Lisi, for joining me live. It's always nice to have someone to talk to. I wish everybody a great night, and we'll have the links for later on.